it's Jeff Black again, your BFP Dream Builder from Beechmont Ford Performance, and we are doing a special garage table episode on the road. We are at the Gail Halderman Museum in Tip City, Ohio, and actually tomorrow we've got the huge National Mustang Day event for 2022. And I was able to, fortunately, have a gentleman right here next to me agree to come and be one of our guests. So you might recognize him. He looks a little familiar to you. His name's Sean Kiernan, and that name should ring a bell because a couple of years ago, he was all over the place. I mean, everywhere you looked, we saw Sean, because he and his family, it turned out, owned the original Mustang Bullitt car from the movie that Steve McQueen drove. So we're going to kind of ask a few questions out of him today, and hopefully you're going to get some good entertainment here. Sean, first off, thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. Heck yeah.
Yeah, this is an honor to have you come up and be doing our event with us, but it's definitely an honor for me to be able to talk to you here.
Oh, definitely. This is probably the first thing I've done not on a Zoom since I sold the car. So
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, for when the whole pandemic thing first hit, obviously I think nobody knew what we were dealing with.
Yeah.
And like at our dealership, we had actual furloughs where they, had a lot of people weren't. So for 5 weeks, I was home. And I was doing garage table episodes in the garage, and I had this one episode that I did. Do you remember the movie with Tom Hanks where he was on the island? And,
Castaway.
Castaway.
Yeah, yeah.
And he had the soccer ball.
Wilson.
Yeah. So I had set this whole thing up. I had my wife, does a lot of sewing and stuff, and she has one of those things that you make dresses on.
Yeah.
So I rigged that up and had a jacket on it, and I put a Wilson basketball on top of it with a hat, and I did an interview with Wilson.
That's hilarious.
It was like, I'm going crazy.
The best thing is I had a little girl, so she was when we sold the car. She was only a month old, and sold the car. Basically went home, and then pandemic happened, so I was home every day with 3-month-old. So I was good and busy. It's been flying time.
Oh, God,
it's been flying.
Yeah, and they grow up quick.
Oh yeah, she's 2. I mean, it's insane.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to some of the important stuff that the people are probably wondering about.
Yeah.
First off, I guess let me start with the basic question of that car obviously sat in your guys' barn for what, years?
Garage.
Yeah. Or your
It was
garage?
actually in the garage, yeah. It was only in the barn, which is always fun to talk about because it was in the barn for maybe about 6 months.
Okay.
We moved to Florida in '94, and while we moved to Florida, it went to a friend of the family's barn, and it was there for about 6 months, and that's where the air cleaner got taken, the pictures that ended up on Facebook the day that I unveiled. That all happened while we were in Florida. The rest of the time it was in our garage, and it was if anybody can imagine having a car that had been in your family, no matter what it is, 20 years ago that your mom and dad used to drive around.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't run, I still drove it in my mind, you know, and played in that car, every day. I mean, and then I guess when I actually unveiled it and I had to sit under stage and wait to, come out and drive out, I sat in the car for an hour, just hanging out and reminiscing. Yeah. But the smell in the car has never changed.
You're right.
And I honestly think that if the car even was to get restored, which it's never to be restored, I think it would still smell the same.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things I hope never goes away with the car.
Awesome. So you were, basically growing up with this car there all this time.
Oh, yeah.
At the time, did you know what the car was?
No. I mean, I knew it was special. And the reason I knew it was special because it was in the garage, because all of our other cars were outside. And Dad had a Porsche that he had bought in '89. Actually, bought it in Newport.
Newport, Kentucky?
Yeah.
Oh, across the river from
Right across the river. And it was a green 75 and probably got pushed more than drove since the day he got it. And it's in my garage now, funny enough. And that was next to Bullitt in the garage. So those two were in there and everything else was outside. And so I knew the car was special, and it had been in New Jersey until '89. And we didn't have another car like that. There wasn't another, muscle car, or not even that. It was, we didn't have another car from the 70s that mom and dad hadn't.
Yeah.
So I knew that was the importance to me.
Yeah.
It was more that than anything. Not until probably, I don't know, until I was like 7 or 8. So I knew of Bullitt, the movie, just from the chase scene. My dad would show, me, and gosh, I still have the VCR and the tape, VHS. And he would show me the chase scene. Of course, I don't think I actually watched the movie until I was like 18, 19. Even then, I didn't understand it, so I had to watch it again over and over because it's kind of a slow roll.
Yeah.
It's a great 12 minutes, but, the rest of it's...
Right. I agree. I agree.
So, yeah, I mean, I knew what it was, but it was special to me for a different reason.
Yeah.
Because it was the family car.
Right.
I mean, people get nostalgic about stuff. I'm super nostalgic about stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we have everything that we've always. Bullitt was the first thing I ever sold, and still, I keep everything, and it's funny the way you become sentimental about something, especially something from your childhood. But even before that, it was my dad's car. So, that was probably why I loved it so much.
I get that. My dad had a 66 convertible. It was just a 6-cylinder. But I to this day, I remember that car.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember riding in it and enjoying that car. And it's kind of, in many ways, I think it is what led me to Mustangs.
Absolutely. I became a car guy because of the garage.
Yeah.
And I mean, became a car nerd, really. I mean, my dad was into horses. We had cars, but he got into horses. Was I don't want to say obsessed, but obsessed with horses, and I became obsessed with cars. He was obsessed with cars in his 30s.
Yeah.
And then 40s happened. We got the farm, and then it kind of became a thing.
Yeah.
And the cars were more to the wayside. But yeah, Bullitt was always special, but it wasn't special because it was Bullitt. If that makes sense.
I kind of get that.
Yeah.
So, how did he end up buying the car to begin with? And obviously, did he know the history of the car and everything when he bought it, or did you figure that out afterwards?
Yeah. Well, it came with documentation. But the thing that's funny about it is in '74 when he bought it, it was only 6 years after the movie, and movie cars really weren't a thing.
Well, I was going to say, probably nobody even thought about that car being worth anything.
No, and the second owner, Frank, he actually would tell people, like at the bar, and like, I've got the original car from Bullitt, I can prove it, I got the stuff in the glove box. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was neat later on, but not then. And I mean, I think Dad was always skeptical that it was the car just because it was New Jersey. And, California to New Jersey is a train ride. And somebody doing that, even though it's a deal,
right.
Who knows? But I would say, he bought it 60%, 70% because it was a big block and it was a Mustang. And the fact that it was Bullitt was probably not too much of it.
Yeah.
He obviously loved the movie. Him and Mom saw it 3 or 4 times. Dad was a McQueen fan and, obviously a Mustang fan and a car guy. But it was just this lonely classified ad in a Road and Track magazine. And it's all by just pure luck and timing is the only thing that...
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, so it's something, obviously you never know if a car is going to be worth anything.
Right.
And like you said, at that time, probably nobody really thought anything. Yeah, it was in that movie, whatever.
No, you never know. I mean, honestly, you never know. And I mean, it wasn't a thing, And I know that shocks a ton of people that no one cared, but no one did. And the fact that there was this history in the cars, were they alive, were they not, and were there 2, were there 10, were there 4, how many, this whole thing, nobody really knew until the internet was born. And then people started to dig into it and actually, trying to figure out what, where, how, and who can prove it.
So, I mean, all that time that you guys had the car, I mean, were you at some point like deliberately, in a sense, hiding it, not letting anybody know you had it, or was it just because you just didn't know?
So when we moved from Florida to Nashville. After we got to Nashville, the first thing to come to the house was the car, and the reason was because of the pictures we're taking. Somebody had broken into his barn, and he knew that the Bullitt was in there, and it had some history. That was the point, I guess.
Yeah.
We brought it and like, all right, we're not telling anybody about it. It's kind of getting weird.
Okay.
And the reasoning behind all of it seemed to be the birth of the internet was starting to come around.
Yeah.
People starting to talk about it, and then 99, 2000 was the whole thing of we hear that there's a Bullitt, maybe this edition coming from Ford, and then that's when things kind of got weird because when Ford comes out with an edition, even though it was a package, that this is going to be an homage to the original car, to the movie, and all of that. When that happened, that's when the doors stayed shut, and people started calling my dad because there was a handful of people who knew my dad had it.
Right.
And my dad just it wasn't in any shape to show anybody anyway.
Right.
At that point, the car hadn't ran since '80.
Yeah.
So it was not even the fact that they didn't know what it looked like. In their mind, they think it still looks like the day it rolled off the movie.
Yeah.
But it was not even near that. It wasn't even, it looked exactly then what it looks like now, except it was running and in shape and everything else. And that car was a death trap,
Yeah.
Well, like 400 pounds of Bondo.
When the movie people were done with it, they were like, whatever.
They didn't care. They were begging people to buy it for $1.
Yeah.
Just to get it off the lot.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was such a funny story. Just Lee Brown, the guy that built the cars, was begging people to take them.
Really?
And just get off my lot. I gotta get these things out of here. You imagine 268s, and the Charger was there. Of course, I think they were being stripped for parts, along with the crushed one. We'll call it the Mexico car. But it wasn't a thing. It was just another Mustang.
Yeah. So, at what point did you start thinking, hey, you know what? Maybe we'll sell this thing.
Oh, selling it.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you. So when I unveiled, I started getting that question.
Yeah.
So it was January 2018. I unveiled, and I would say probably 3 out of the 5 questions were, this is worth, because we had done the Leno thing and they had put a value on it, $3 to $4 million. This is worth that much. This is life-changing money. Are you going to sell it? My thing was, before because I knew that was going to be one of the top questions.
Yeah.
What's it worth? Are you going to sell it?
Right.
So my wife and I sat down, my mom as well, and I said, I'm not even going to question or think about it or anything. 2018 is the year of, blood, sweat, and tears. Let's go as many places as we can. Let's show it off to as many people as we can as feasibly possible. I'm not worrying about, selling it. If somebody even comes up, I'll say maybe down the road. But I didn't want that to be screwing with my mind, and be the whole time. So I said, the goal is to get to a museum at the end of the year. So in December, I'm going to park it in the museum. I'm going to go home. We're going to do holidays. And then in January, I'm going to go back to the museum, and I'm going to sit on a chair and stare at the car and figure it out, whether I'm going to do it or not.
Right.
And at that point, 2018 was insane. Yes, it was bucket list checked off. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But a lot of weird things happened too. And, basically going broke trying to travel with the car. But on top of that, it was perception that, this guy's crazy about this car.
Right.
He's nuts. And he won't let anybody touch it. He won't let anybody sit in it, except, a couple people. And this guy's the only one's allowed to touch. The reason I am, because this isn't, the car gets wrecked or car gets hurt and you paint the fender and blend the door. It's not that kind of thing.
Yeah, can't replace it.
So I was really weird about it, and people just didn't understand that. So that might have been part of it. I don't know. But the big thing for me was I am an absolute family guy. I just had a daughter. or my wife was actually pregnant at the time I had decided, and I sat my sister down, I sat my mom down, and I trailered it down to a show in California in January of 19. Did that, had a blast. Told my sister while I was driving it back, putting it on the trailer, I said, I think this is it. And I was emotionally okay with it.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing, because my wife is scared to death that I was going to regret it the day after and not sleep.
Well, I would, and you tell me, but I would also think that at that point too, once you have realized that this car is worth what it's worth,
Right.
it's almost like you get a little paranoid about somebody stealing it.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, anything really.
Oh.
And it's like, do you want to go on for extended periods of time trying to figure out how do I, what am I going to do with this car?
Yeah.
How do I keep it secure? Or
Exactly. I mean, that was the biggest thing. I mean, I still have a 2-car garage. It's not some huge museum at my house or anything like that. And that was the big thing. It was the safety for me, my family, because people are a little bit
crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had a couple of people asking me to come by the house and see my collection, and it was just so funny, and I just didn't have it. It was just Bullitt in the garage, and then eventually number 2 joined it right next to it, the 19, and I mean, that was it. It wasn't, I didn't have this huge elaborate thing, and that was a big part of it, is just the safety of the car.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want it to continue to deteriorate.
Right.
I didn't want me to continue to deteriorate, trying to take care of it. And somebody really needed to have a collection, a team, a huge place to be able to put it in where it's air conditioned and everything's taken care of. I mean, she deserved that.
Yeah.
And she's getting that.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we're not all Jay Leno.
Right. And that guy's got a team. I mean, but they're restoring stuff. I mean, he's got that $15 million F1, and right.
I know.
You sit there and think about it. I mean, that it's just a car, yes.
Yeah.
But come on.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. Well, so obviously you made the comment that you decided you were good with selling it. And you still feel that way right now?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, because it would either be sitting in a museum, or at my house, or I mean, there's no telling. I mean, I don't know. I would continue to show it, of course.
Yeah.
But going beyond that, just continuing to take care of it. And I mean, would I take my girls and my wife and everything and go to these shows, and I'm just pulling a little trailer, it's so you really got to think about it.
Well, the memories that you and your family now have of that whole couple years of, like you said, going all over the place with the car, Ford treating you like a celebrity. I mean, it's those are great memories that you're never going to lose.
Absolutely.
Whether or not you owned a car anymore or not, you still have all that.
Oh, that and the friends and everybody that I've met along the way.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm still a Mustang nerd, and I always have been. It's just now I'm a little bit louder about it. But I mean, I'm always going to be part of this. But the fun thing is until I went to a car show without it, like I went to something without it, holy smokes, I got a chance to talk to everybody, because I wasn't driving myself crazy about the car.
Yeah.
And, making sure everything, so it wasn't like a weight lifted, I mean, but it was in a way. And it was weird right after I sold it, the whole pandemic happened, so, I have been home for 2 years. I mean, I haven't left, and, I have a farm, and that's what I do anyway, but to go from like 80 different shows and then just stop was really tough.
Right.
Mentally.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned about, not letting people sit in a car or whatever. And I remember now I'm trying to think of how many years ago it actually was, but you were at the big Somerset, Kentucky event.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, I was there, and then our mutual friend, Tony Alonso, we were all there, and a couple of our other friends. We were honestly kind of kidding other friends, sending them messages saying, "Hey, don't tell anybody, but we got to sit in a car." We're just kind of
awesome.
like playing with them, and we're like, well, nobody knows if we did or not.
Right. And that was the thing is like, when the car, if it got a scratch, I was like, how do you tell? And I mean, I couldn't. My biggest thing was expanding cracks in Bondo. is I took a picture every time I unloaded it, and would measure it and everything. But yeah, I mean the seat wasn't in great shape, so I just didn't want any, you know.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Especially when you take it to shows and certain people who's like, hey, can my wife sit in the car and she's got high heels and this huge hat on, and you're like, does she even know what is going on?
Exactly.
So, but that was more concourse stuff,
Yeah.
which that's not my, you know, whatever. But it was like going to the Kentucky Derby.
And like you said, you know, again, the memories, all the people you've met. I mean, heck, I would not know you if it wasn't because of this.
Absolutely.
And mutually, I've met him basically through my friend Tony Alonso, and then even through that, got to meet your sister. And,
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the first thing we did.
Yeah.
Was make sure she had a reliable car.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to sell her a beautiful Explorer ST.
gosh, that thing is nice.
Yeah. She hasn't gotten any tickets in that yet, has she?
No, gosh, I'm sure she barely does the speed limit in that. She's nervous. Just, you know, she's taking care of it.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful car.
Oh.
No doubt.
Well, and I know everybody, you know, everybody's sitting out there, you've been going, well, when are you going to ask him the question? And, you know, he can't answer that question.
I do know where the car is, and she's fine.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
That's all I can say.
Yeah, and one day, I think when the stars will align. Now, if the pandemic didn't happen, maybe everybody knows. Who knows? But
who knows?
Stars will align one day, and she'll be back out.
Yeah. Well, it's like you and I spoke earlier today, and I made the comment that whoever does own it, in my mind, I'm kind of like, well, I don't know why you would need to be keeping it a big secret, but it's obviously now their car. They can do what they want.
Oh yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the fun part of paying that kind of money. You get to do with whatever you want to with
Yep.
it. So
and let's be honest, $3.5 million changes your life. You know, you can do some things that you may not have been able to do before. I know you said you bought like a second farm next to you.
Yeah, it was the farm behind me that we had been renting since '94. God bless my father. We bought a horse farm in '94 that had no barn, no fence, and was on a hill. And the farm behind us was flat with a fence and barns. So we had rented that out, and it's just a beautiful piece of property. And the only reason I was able to do it was because of Bullitt.
Right.
And this is all part of the plan. And the plan continues, and you know, it's hopefully something soon will pop up with the documentary that we're doing.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be quite large, and a lot of people are involved in that now, and it just keeps getting bigger. So one day that'll be out, and it'll kind of explain everything.
No target date at all for that?
Nope.
Okay.
2 years ago.
Yeah, I got you.
That's exactly it.
And now we got the rumors about Spielberg making another Bullitt movie, which, you know, everybody's all excited about.
Yeah. There's scripts in the work right now for that. So.
Well, I chuckle a little bit because I kind of was like you. Bullitt, other than watching the car chase scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, oh, okay. To me, it was never that great of a movie.
Right.
But
well, Spielberg's a nerd, and that's what I love about him. Yeah. And, you know, it's behind the scenes, I think, of Bullitt, and even the chase car was the same one that he had for Duel, and which is one of his first films. And he's a nerd, and that's what's gonna make everybody fall head over heels over a new Frank Bullitt-ish kind of movie.
Right.
So he's one of us. At the end of the day, he just wants to make what makes him feel nostalgic.
Yeah. Well, guys, I hope that you got some entertainment out of this and some excitement. And I know I did, and it was a pleasure to sit down with you, Sean.
Absolutely. Especially here.
Yeah, I know. I mean, really think about this. This is kind of a little mecca here.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you know, when Gail did that drawing, you know, we talked about just like you were saying with the Bullitt car. When Gail did that drawing, obviously he had no clue.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's just another car he drew.
Right.
And look what happened. I mean, almost 60 years later.
And we're sitting in it, it's just shrine of, oh my gosh.
Oh, I know. Amazing. And we are, you know, like myself and everybody that lives in this area, we're fortunate enough that, you know, this is not very far from my house at all.
Right.
And, you know, I'm up here quite a bit during the summer, and it's just a pleasure.
This place is amazing.
Yeah. So the Gail Halderman Museum here in Tip City, Ohio, is still run. Gail obviously passed away a couple years ago, but his daughter, Karen Koenig, is still running the museum, and his granddaughter, Lauren, she's helping run it. And it's not open to the public, but it's mainly like car clubs and car groups. You can make an appointment to come here and hang out and check it all out. And you can even still hang out with Gail. He's here.
I was there that day. He took the picture.
Yeah? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to let this gentleman get out of here tonight. We got a big day tomorrow.
Heck yeah.
And thanks again,
Oh,
Sean.
man, absolutely.
All right,
sure.
guys, we'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Great.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't need a script.